Hi folks, this is your MWIS planning outlook as we look toward the weekend and beyond. The rest of this week is a rather changeable mix with still some rather chilly conditions across the mountains. We'll see some wet weather as well on Thursday in Western Scotland in particular. Friday improves and the improving trend takes us into the weekend for many as high pressure is building. Got to watch some fronts just grazing northern and northwestern Scotland though. Temperatures will pick up for a while, but into next week it still looks as though we're being fed by chilly air masses coming around from Scandinavia. Let's see how all that develops then. This is the chart which shows you the average pressure patterns over a week as a whole. The orange colours is higher than average pressure, blue colours indicating lower than average pressure, and the various lines on the map are the wind flow patterns at higher levels in the atmosphere. It almost dictates where we've got the jet stream at this time, which is diving down as a northwesterly flow across the British Isles, bringing that chilly airflow pattern we're seeing at the moment. The ridge of high pressure out to the west is then going to try and build its way in, heading for this weekend. The trough of lower pressure, which is over Central Europe, is quite important because that is going to play a role in how next week's pattern develops. High pressure is expected to stay on the scene for us into next week. This is the pressure patterns averaged for the week as a whole through to the 29th. See the bump of the contours just extending up through Ireland and Scotland, higher than average pressure away to the north and the northwest. We do have a zone of low pressure over the near continent, and it's taken the models a little while to understand how this feature has evolved. Basically, what's around at the moment is still just going to circulate as cool, unsettled conditions over central parts of Europe. Most of the worst of conditions do look to stay there, but it does have some influence on us because it does allow the airflow patterns to get drawn around from the northeast, and some chillier conditions expected to get back across the country into the early stages of next week, and that may last for several days. Some variations in temperature and freezing level for the week ahead then. This is the immediate short term, and this is Wednesday morning, starting off at 600 metres or lower with a touch of frost in some valleys and glens first thing in the morning. By the middle of the day, that level is up to around 800 metres and lifting higher through into the afternoon, especially across more western parts, up above 1,000 metres for many western mountains in Scotland. Higher terrain, though, still frozen, and snow cover has recently been topped up again, so do be prepared to find winter conditions on those higher mountains. Across the country into Thursday, that freezing level starts off varied with some frost locally across England and Wales in particular, perhaps also some glens in central eastern Scotland where it's clear. Otherwise, though, Thursday is a day of a lifting temperature and freezing level for a time up above freezing to the highest tops in Scotland as some milder Atlantic air drifts through. But as the flow turns northwesterly again and the cold front sinks southwards, temperatures will drop into Thursday night and Friday, taking that freezing level back towards 800 metres or lower across northern Scotland by first thing on Friday morning. Friday daytime will then see something of a lift, typically up to around 1,000 metres or so in central parts of the Highlands, a bit higher than that out toward the west coast, a bit colder, a bit lower toward the north of the Highlands. Now into the weekend, as high pressure builds and some milder air gets wafted in from the Atlantic, temperatures will generally be up above freezing point to the higher tops by a good few degrees over Saturday and Sunday. There may be a slight frost at dawn in some sheltered valleys and glens, just depends on clear skies. There may be variable amounts of cloud just around through this weekend. As we head into next week, generally things start off with that relatively mild air around, but just notice toward the north of Scotland how that freezing level value is starting to lower again. This is as the airflow is turning more toward the north or maybe the northeast, and indications just favouring further onwards into the week that colder body of air around Scandinavia could just get drawn back in. So we go back to a freezing level hovering close to Munro level, basically at around 900 metres across the Highlands, a bit lower toward the northeast, a bit higher away toward the west coast. Wet and windy into Thursday then. This is the sequence with heavy rain setting in across western mountains in Scotland. Rain and drizzle spilling eastwards as well, preceded by some snow on the higher tops before temperatures do just tend to lift. Gale force winds across most higher mountains throughout the daytime. Rain extending into northern England through the day as well, becoming heavier with time. Breaking up across the Highlands through the afternoon with showers following from the northwest, low cloud covering many hills throughout the day, lowest in western parts. That rain and drizzle sinks southwards overnight into Friday, staying blustery with those northwesterly winds by this stage, those speeds just tending to come down a bit through Friday. It'll be a day of bright spells with a few scattered showers, many places often dry though, with some sunshine and cloud breaks up towards most higher tops. High pressure is then starting to build its way in from the west. Now, things aren't absolutely plain sailing, it must be said, into the weekend. As often is the case with these highs, there are some weak fronts just draped around the northern flank of it, just making a nuisance of themselves, bringing some patchy light rain and drizzle towards northwestern parts of the highlands, and a fair amount of low cloud drawn in across western mountains in particular, which may well persist all the way through the day. Higher cloud bases the further inland and eastwards that you go, and generally dry across central and eastern Scotland, and even toward the west, any rainfall amounts would be small. We've got a southwesterly breeze as well across northern Scotland, which may well remain rather fresh. Lighter winds further toward the south, especially England and Wales. Generally light winds here, and dry and bright conditions with some sunshine and well-broken cloud. Most mountains would be in the clear. Some patchy valley fog or mist maybe first thing in the morning. Temperatures fairly mild, and any sunshine will feel quite warm. High pressure stays around into Sunday. We've got that southwesterly wind across to the north and northwest of Scotland. That could be rather windy over the more northern mountains, so just watch the forecast detail for that one. Looks generally dry. There could still be some banks of low cloud drawn onto the west coast, particularly around Skye. Elsewhere, mostly the mountains freer of cloud or just a few patches on some higher slopes. Best of breaks and some sunshine in Scotland would be toward the east and the northeast, locally feeling quite warm in this part of the world. England and Wales again staying dry with sunshine and well-broken cloud and light winds here throughout. Finishing off with a quick look into next week, and there's not much day-to-day detail we can get. It's all a fairly typically springtime weather sequence really, where the weather patterns themselves are quite weak and slow moving. High pressure broadly toward the northwest. There may be a few remnants of old fronts just drift southwards in the flow, allowing a few April showers to form locally, but pretty well scattered. A fair amount of dry and bright weather. Watch for the greater risk of overnight frosts though, with that rather chilly air mass in charge. High pressure, one way or the other, still looks to be nearby in midweek, but again, keep an eye on the forecast details. You can do that every day, of course, on our website. That is your planning outlook for today. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.